So we've got some basic character design here, and I'm going to start in pencil out. I'm using a mechanical pencil. I think it's a 0.5 width lead. I'm using scrap paper, which is what you can see, that big load of pink ink blotted up the top there. Just use scrap paper for your sketching. Now what I'm doing here, I'm doing a sphere, a cylinder. The next one is a what do you call it, tetrahedron or a pyramid, and a cube will be the next one. Reason for that is because it's just a reminder to you that everything in nature can be drawn using these 4 objects. I'm going to try and illustrate what I mean by that in what I'm going to do next. I'm going to get rid of this so that I can create the next bit. But just remember that. It's a really good rule to remember, which is all objects in nature can be replicated in illustration using a sphere, a cylinder, a pyramid, or a cube. That's how shapes work. You'll see. So first of all, I'm drawing a sphere here, and I want to make it a bit three-dimensional, so I'm going to just work out where the midline is, where I want to put the midline. There you go, that bisects it there. You can see that's, no, I don't, straight away I'm looking at the angle going, no, it's too straight. It's too straight, it's too boring, so I'm going to get rid of it. And that's really important, because if you start from a position where you've got an angle wrong, it's very, very difficult to correct it later. So much better to keep it nice and fluid at this stage. So you see I put a much bigger tilt on it there. I can do it as rough as I like. See how rough that is? Just keep it rough, keep it nice and loose. I'm doing the same there, find the centre lines. Just rub a little bit of that out so that I can see where my working lines are. There you go, there's a centre line. I'm marking my centre for myself just so I know where it is and so you know what I'm talking about. There's the centre line. So I've got an idea of the 3D shape of that. Now I'm just putting brows in here. This is where the eyes are going to go on a character. There you go. So there's the eyebrow line. I always do angry character. Very rarely do I do anything other than angry characters. So my angry characters have angry eyes. So this is more of an example of that. It's the bottom of his, getting his eyes in there. And now I've got to work on the structure of his eyebrows. Basing them, making them a bit more three-dimensional. So I'll knock in the top bit there. Bring that round and down. I've got to mirror that on this side. There you go. And obviously it's a lot smaller because it's further away from the camera, so to speak. It's further away from what we're looking at. Gives an illusion of depth, of 3 dimensions. There you go. For now, I'm happy with that eye line. For now. It can be adjusted. All this stuff can be adjusted, but you saw why I had to adjust the shape and the angle earlier, because if I hadn't got that right, adjusting all this, well, you just have to start again, basically, which is why you want to keep it nice and loose as well. So I'm getting the cheekbones in now, and I want to get the edge of his head in. Yeah. There you go. So that can almost follow the edge lines of the original working lines. Get his nose in. So I'm slightly ignoring the centre line now because I'm thinking that centre line is not exactly where I want it to be. You often find this in illustration, you kind of think, I could draw this realistically and it might not look as good, so I'm going to just slightly do something to it. I'm going to alter it so it heightens the look of it. There you go, I've got a nose in. That's a good working position for the nose as far as I'm concerned. Again, I'm coming away from the centre line to do his mouth parts. As you can see, this is a very sort of traditional character for me. I could probably do it from scratch, without any working lines whatsoever, but I really wanted to show you how you can construct from working lines. Just drop that there. See, I'm just readjusting as I go. Ethan Van Sciver, the great DC artist, he always says that drawing is just like, it's just thousands of little alterations and adjustments. That's what you're doing. Drawing and redrawing, particularly in the sketch stage, sometimes in the inking stage as well. I adjust it in inking sometimes. A lot of inkers will say, yeah, you start to adjust as you lay down. You start to intuitively know where lines go in accordance with others. Now I'm dropping in the body here and I'm looking at that, so the angle could come down like that if he was leaning in like that and looking down. That's one thing I could do. Just get rid of that, so you can show. I can show you another thing you could do. This one is a much more sort of hip hoppy pose. In the, there you go. He's sort of leaning back, very hip hoppy that, and that could be where his little fist is there, dropping it. Just a sort of little idea of where the fist could go, just there, if you so desired. I'm going to get rid of that. Show you another thing. Show you something else. Before we get into all that, but this is just to give me an idea. This is what I would do on an illustration. I'd work out what I wanted to do with the body, because I might not have planned it at all. I often don't. I often don't plan that kind of thing. I just jam it, see where it goes. Now I want to get a hat on him, and I decide I'm going to put the hat on the right way. So he's going to be wearing a baseball cap. Just get me led up there. He's going to be wearing a snapback. And he's going to wear it in a conventional way. So there you go. There's the rim of his hat. Getting that in, so I know where the edge is, where I need to take the right hand side edge of his hat is there, and that's the other edge. So you see how things, it practically draws itself if your working lines are in and you know where everything is, because you're totally in proportion. You don't need to worry about proportions. You see that hat goes up to the top of those working lines that I had before, because that would be the natural size of a head, and if I'd done it any lower than that, it might not work. You can make all sorts of stuff work when you get better at this, but for this, I'm showing you how to do it in a very kind of conventional, straightforward way, which will easily fool the eye of your viewer into thinking that you've created an object. Now I'm just dropping the eye. See that eye line doesn't quite work for me, so I'm just dropping that in slightly lower, just slightly lower. And that for me is an aesthetic thing really, but for me that's just more pleasing to my eye. There we go. Just minor adjustments on the cheekbone. I'm not too bothered about that. I'm not going to do a body on this. I would do if I was doing a full illustration, but I'm just showing you. I'm going to drop a pair of glasses on him. So I'm going to work out. So obviously the right hand side is going to be smaller than the left hand side, because we've got a full on, straight on view practically of this side that I'm doing now. The other side is going to be much more narrow, because we don't have such a straight on view of it. So it gives me an idea. Once I drop them into place, I can see whether I'm happy with that or not. If it gives a good idea of where they are, I'm looking at that, I'm thinking, yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. That's all right. I'd buy that if I was looking at that. As long as I buy it, then there's a chance that somebody else might. Just an idea of where the shines might go. Just, we're a long way off that yet, but dropping the arm there. I don't want it protruding off the back of his head, so I'm just going to keep it there. Now we move on to his hand. Now for this one, I'm going to draw a cube for you. So have a look at this. This is what I mean by cubes. There you go, there's a cube. So from that cube, I'm going to add a tiny little outline of a thumb, just there. Don't need much. And that's roughly where the fingers would go. You see already how much that looks like a fist. we can fool the eye very, very easily with very few lines. Just going to put where the knuckles will go in there. That's just a note for you, really, just to show you how this would work ultimately, and how you'd shade it and all that kind of stuff. And there you go. There's a little fist. I'm going to get rid of that. And now I'm going to show you one based on a circle. There's a circle. So mostly you can see I'm using circles and cubes for what I'm doing here. There you go. There's the edge of his little glove there. And now, following the line there, I go up off the line, get his thumb going there, round on the line again to get his forefinger in, and round on the line again to get his other two fingers in, which are curled under to make a fist. Now that for me, it's a little bit too round. I'd probably want to squash that in a little bit. I'd squash the sides in a little bit. If I was to do that again, I'd probably rub that out and do it again, if this was my illustration I was doing. But I'm just showing you, so you can see how that is just based on a sphere. That's all it is. And the rest is just practice. Practice in hands, looking at hands, cartoon in hands, that kind of stuff. And that, I'm going to probably leave it there because I'm not going to do a body on this. So I'll leave it there. And you can see that that's working lines to a passable sketch.